Committee. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I call Materia Ture, 5 minutes in reply.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank all of those who have spoken in support of this bill over the last few weeks, and for those who are voting to send it to Select Committee. I understand that we have 60 members of the House tonight will vote in favour of the bill. Very nearly a majority of the Parliament. Not quite enough, but a good start, and better than we have seen in the past. I want to thank also all of those New Zealanders who have supported this bill in their various ways and the campaign to end child poverty. The Green Party has long believed that the in-work tax credit is unjust. The reasons for keeping it in its current form are facile and worse, damage individual families and children by trapping them into poverty and damaging community cohesion by creating an arbitrary and an unreal separation between those who work and those who rely on a benefit. It is unjustifiable. So I recently saw two graphs showing the trend of child poverty from the mid-1980s to today from both Australia and New Zealand. Now, the New Zealand graph is unsurprising. Child poverty rose radically during the late 1980s and into the 1990s, particularly during National Party's vicious attacks on beneficiaries. Child poverty reduced slightly in the 2000s with working for families, but has remained worse now than it was in the 1980s. That is, a greater percentage of children now live in poverty than they did in the 1980s. In Australia, over exactly the same period of time, in a similar economy and culture, the rates of child poverty have continued to decline and decline. The two images of New Zealand and Australia child poverty rates are vastly different because they tell two different stories about how children are valued in the economy by the political decision makers. In Australia, there is a comprehensive set of child-related payments of significant amounts. The payments are for the children and they apply to a family regardless of whether that person is in work or on a benefit. Australian families get something like 330 New Zealand dollars a week for two children aged between 5 and 13, and more if the youngest child is under 5. If the child is newborn, they get a one-off payment of 5,000 Australian dollars to help cover the costs. In New Zealand, the same family, two-child family, is subject to a highly complex and discriminatory criteria for working for families. They get something like $216 a week for their children only if they satisfy an hours of work criteria and are not on a benefit. If they are on a benefit or have simply lost work, they get only $156 a week. Low-income parents with a newborn in New Zealand who don't meet the stringent requirements for paid parental leave get at most an extra $1,200 parental tax payment. Parents who are on a benefit get no extra financial assistance at all for their newborn babies. In New Zealand, families with children have been deliberately stripped of decent income support, either through benefit cuts, deliberate wage reduction policies, or by discriminatory working for families tax transfers that value some families over others. The name in work for this particular child payment is simply a justification to deny the child payment to New Zealand's poorest children. And in doing so, the government saves itself some $450 million a year. The cumulative loss of income for low-income households since 2006 is $2.5 billion. That is $2.5 billion that is money taken from the mouths of New Zealand's poorest children. These are political decisions. Solutions to poverty are absolutely determined by political action to put children at the centre of government's economic decisions to value their dignity and security by guaranteeing the essentials: decent benefits, good wages, affordable homes. No provision of services or charities can eliminate poverty. They can only help ease the worst effects, and that is desperately needed. But child poverty is a political issue. Child poverty is an economic issue. The Green Party proudly puts children at the centre of our political and economic decisions. We ask that this Parliament does the same. I commend this bill to the House.
Members, this debate has concluded. The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. The noes have it. Party votes called for. I'll ask the clerk for a party vote.
New Zealand National.
59 votes opposed.
New Zealand Labour.
34 votes in favour.
Green Party.
14 votes in favour.
New Zealand First.
8 votes in favour.
Māori Party.
3 votes in favour.
Mana.
1 vote in favour.
Act New Zealand.
1 vote opposed.
United Future.
1 vote opposed.
Members, the ayes are 60, the noes are 61. The motion is not agreed to. Point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr Speaker, we've made a lot of progress. I seek leave to rise slightly early for the dinner break.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There is no objection. I shall resume the chair at 7:30.